The button.
Button is on. Hey, I can hear myself. Call to order. A little scary having the monitors.
Oh, gosh.
Show.
You
can see myself.
Recording in progress.
Okay, are we live? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Rocky Hill Open Space and Conservation Commission. This is a regular in-person meeting for Wednesday, June 9th, 2021. So I've called the meeting to order. Would everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Welcome, everybody. It is so good to be back in these council chambers. I welcome you all, and I welcome everyone out in the public. With that said, item 2 is public hearing. Is there anyone from the public here with anything to say? Seeing no one, I'm going to request someone make a motion to skip item 3 and 4 right now. The attorney for item 3, the permit number 572, is running late and is not here right now. So I'd like someone to make a motion to move to item 5, discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to move to item 5, discussion.
Do I have a
Second
second?
it.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, item 5 then, discussion. Number A, or letter A, proposed planting plan for conservation easement area located to the rear of 10 Ramblewood Drive. Yes. State your name and, yes, come to the microphone.
Good evening, members of the Commission. For the record, Attorney Keith Shaw. I represent Mr. Hafiz Mirza and his wife, 10 Ramblewood Drive, Rocky Hill. If you may recall, this was in response to a cease and desist order that my clients received a few months back in the fall as a result of removing some trees in the back due to severe storm damage. We've been here a few times. You may or may not. I'm sure you don't. Maybe you don't recognize me without my mask. So here I am. But we finally got a new plan that we brought in. We had a landscape architect named Suzanne Shore, and she worked with the nursery. I've submitted a copy of this to Mr. Alvarado. If I can, I don't know if you have or not. I've made extra copies to hand out, including the cover letter. I don't know if you have the cover letter.
We have it all.
Yeah, cover letter.
Okay. And so we're here to seek your approval or your comments, and we're ready to hopefully move on soon and facilitate a plan to make everybody happy.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, as a refresher, this item was tabled at the October 14th meeting. At that time, we were looking for a suitable plan that will be suitable to the commission and suitable to the site. The committee expressed interest in having native vegetation, basically trees and shrubs, proposed for the site. And that is the reason. And of course, we were also dealing with the planting season, and was close enough on us. So that's the reason why this is taking a little bit longer. So we are hoping that once this plan is in place, that it can be implemented. We were hoping that it could be implemented this springtime, of course, but there's always the fall. And if need be, I mean, it can be implemented right now as long as the whatever plantings, if they're approved by this commission, are watered properly. One of the things that I like to bring up to you was that on the sketch that was provided by, I believe it was the nursery, if you see as you can see the wall that is there, the existing wall. The existing wall is actually the conservation easement. So there's a line that goes through that is not following that wall that says, that basically was denoted as an existing wetlands easement. It's not. The wetlands easement is the wall. And also, where it says existing vegetation, well, there is no vegetation. That's why we're here, so we can get some vegetation growing. But aside from that, the plantings that are there are as Attorney Shaw said, were looked at by a professional as this commission wanted during the October meeting, and drawn on the plans and ready to be implemented if it's suitable to the commission.
Okay. In that case, I'm going to open the floor to everyone for any questions. Commissioner Schweitzer, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, a couple of comments. We had requested that the conservation easement markers be shown. Will they be shown? Will they be installed out there?
If requested and required, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
My apologies. I thought the town puts in the conservation markers?
We provide them.
Okay.
We provide and you put them.
But you want it to be shown on the plan, or you want it to be installed by the landscape?
Just to make sure they're installed. That's all I want, make sure that the markers are there.
So, again, should the landscaper come to the town to pick them up, or how should he obtain those?
Yeah, he can come and pick them up. And
Absolutely, sure.
We
Okay.
have
Of
plenty
course.
of them.
Thank you.
And then the town drainage easement and the drainage feature, I believe, are off to the west side of the wall. Are they still there, Bob?
The drainage easement is there, it's shown on the plot plan. There was as you recall, it's not shown with this, but there's a plot plan showing on the parcel. So the drainage is there. Part of this drainage easement is also within the conservation easement.
Well, I just want to make sure that it looks like without having it shown on the map, there's a new tree shown there. I just want to make sure there's enough room there that we're not putting in within that drainage easement. In case something has to be done with that in the future, we won't lose another tree for that reason. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Kelly?
Thank you. I have a few questions. I know the request or the requirement was, pardon me, that they be native trees and species, and I can see the ones that are labeled, that they make sense to me. Up on the upper left, you've got Lindera benzoin number 3. What is that? What type?
I have no idea, to be honest with you.
How do
I'm
we
sorry.
know?
May I answer?
Sure.
Mountain laurel.
Thank you. All right, so that's great. Then where it says existing vegetation, but as we've stated, there really isn't, and under the notes, it said apply seed mix to disturbed areas. So will that seed mix go up in what is noted as existing vegetation, but may not really be vegetation at this point?
Again, I don't know the technical answer to that. Well, I apologize, I'm not a...
All right, well, we really, to be honest, we really need the expert to answer some of these questions for
Well,
us.
let me say this. If whatever you are requiring to comment, to be changes be made, such
Okay.
as these technical things, we will advise them and we'll make sure it gets done. So
Okay,
if that's your recommendation, we will abide by your recommendation.
thank you. And the last question, and I know you probably can't answer this, it is on the cusp of going out of the planting season. Will extra measures be taken to ensure that this is successful? I mean, of course, you're putting a lot of money into this, and you want it to succeed. You don't want these trees to die, and we want it to succeed. So I assume that the planting plan will be carefully monitored and do everything they can to make this
Well, absolutely.
succeed at this time of year, which is kind of tough.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Whelan?
I got to first ask staff, are these all native trees, Bob?
That we know of, they're native trees. The landscape architect was on site. She looked at both sides as to what was there, and basically tried to close the gap with some of the native species.
Okay. I'm unaware of holly growing in our areas up through that area, but, okay, that's the only question I had. Just want to make sure they're native to our areas.
Commissioner Zach?
Refresh me again, how many trees were actually, or vegetation was actually cut down? Do we have a
My-
count?
My recollection was 21,
21?
my
Okay.
recollection.
Okay. So you are putting in more. Okay. Okay, that's it.
Commissioner Stevens?
Hi. Is there anything in the plan, I'm just looking this over and have a lot of time to review this, about monitoring the survival rate of the species that are being planted?
Not to my knowledge.
I'd recommend that we go with a 5-year monitoring plan, and if there's any more than, say, 10 to 15% mortality, then the plants be replaced. And they would be inspected, yearly by your landscape architect.
Is that the normal protocol? We'll follow the normal protocol.
Yeah, you've got,
And I do like the idea of using the conservation seed mix in any of the exposed areas to add some extra, native growth of different species in the area, and then also maintain the, or control the, sedimentation erosion control. So I like that. And that's all I have.
okay. Okay, for me, I just want to say thank you for getting native, although I still, and I'm not holding you to this, I still would have wanted to just see big tall trees and not, I mean, the dogwood, yes, it grows around here. Mountain laurel, thank you for putting that in. But it's almost as if this is still more garden than replacement, if you know what I mean. That it, things that are going to flower. But that said, they are all native. It will grow back. You're putting in conservation mix, wildlife, stuff that would grow on the floor if we left, maybe if we left it alone. So really, I want to say thank you for coming. I was all set to come back and go, no, but we told you to find things that are local. I think my biggest complaint is that they listed common names, and I had to go look up what everything was to see that it's red maple / swamp maple, white oak, and all those things. That might be a future requirement for someone to give us both the technical name and the name that we use, but I think you
Well,
followed what we asked for.
Hopefully, there will be a different attorney with a different client.
Yes, hopefully too. With that, really have no questions for you on this, other than if you do go forward with planting now, it's going to take a lot of water. I don't know if we're going to stipulate that you should plant now or wait till the fall, but you should be able to get these plants during the growing season. So just be prepared that you may be putting a lot of water in there unless we get a rainy summer.
Well, would you, and thank you for your comments, and thanks everybody for your assistance. And Mr. Mercer, very happy to be part of the community, and he plans to stay here for a long time. And he wants to be a good neighbor to everybody.
Yeah.
And he appreciates your input. And as far as the timing, again, I profess I'm not an expert. I can't give an opinion as to timing. However, if you're suggesting that perhaps we should wait to the fall, could we put that in the stipulation that we'll leave it to the landscaper's discretion as to whether to plant it now or wait to the fall, but have it done no later than a certain date? This way we don't have to report back and have some...
That's my question for staff. Bob, what's your
Well,
feeling?
I would suggest that, we are, of course, we are just about out of spring planting. I would suggest the fall. I would suggest no later than November 15th, say, or the
Right, yeah,
November.
Thank you. That was my thought too.
So we can, so we can at least assure a better mortality survival rate on
Yeah,
those plants.
like I said, there would be sorry, keep going. It's your,
No,
you've got the
that's-
mic.
That's it.
That was I'm in agreement with you. Planting season is when the leaves drop and everything goes dormant. So that's mid-October through mid-November.
Yeah.
And then you won't be watering. The plants will just sit there till the spring, and then you get all the spring rains and everything.
Thank you for that
activates.
suggestion. It's much appreciated.
Yeah. All right. With that, I'm looking for a motion. Well, wait, Bob, do we have to remove the cease and desist order first for not working on the land?
Well, what you can do, what I suggest you do is, there's still a cease and desist order out there, but you can modify it to allow for the plant, well, actually, you can do it two ways. You can remove the cease and desist order and then approve the plan as presented with various conditions that were also presented, such as the conservation easement markers to be had, and the monitoring plan, the 5-year monitoring plan that was also suggested by Commissioner Stevens. So you can do it either way.
Is there a way we can combine them together? Because I would hate to remove
You
the
can
cease.
do one motion with.
Right, because, I would like to get a motion for both, because if we took the
Certainly.
cease and desist off, and then we
Yeah.
decide we didn't like the
Yeah.
planting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it will be lifting the cease and desist order, basically.
Right. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion from someone to both lift the cease and desist order and to approve the planning schedule.
I'll make a motion that we lift the cease and desist, and we approve the planting plan with the other conditions that were just mentioned.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Can we go over those, the conditions?
Sure.
I know you had the conservation easement markers, the 5-year monitoring plan. I thought, Scott, you had also mentioned ENS measures as recommended by staff.
Sure, that would be good, yep. And then also, apply the conservation mix as needed to,
Okay. And the
And-
planting is going to be in the fall of
I'm sorry.
2021, no later than November 15th?
Yes.
And that the plantings be inspected annually by the landscape architect?
By the end, okay. Then I will second.
Okay. Hang on one. Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of lifting the cease and desist and approving the planting schedule with conditions stipulated? Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chairman. There was another comment by Commissioner Schweitzer about the easement notated on the map or somewhere.
The town drainage easement and the drainage feature to make sure
Yeah.
we don't put any plantings in that
If you
area.
can just add that, because I would like to be able to give a copy of this to
Certainly.
the landscape.
Certainly,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, so
I'll accept that.
you accept that?
Yep.
Okay, I don't think we need to reapprove the motion because it was something we omitted. So all those in favor of accepting this, lifting the cease and desist and accepting the planning schedule with conditions, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carried. Sorry that this happened. Thank you for being patient with us, and good luck with your home, and hopefully you will be a resident for a long time.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Night. All right, at this point, I'd like to get a motion to go back to item number 3, modification of permit. You guys are ready now? Okay, great. Can someone make a motion to modify, to go back to number 3?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we now go to item number 3 on the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Commissioner Schweitzer. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No opposed. All right. Item number 3A, permit number 572, Gloria Kroll, proposed changes to the footprint of a proposed dwelling located to the rear of 251 France Street. Permit approved 3/11/2020. Please step up to the microphone, state your name.
Hi, it's Mark Reynolds. I'm a registered professional engineer in Colchester, Connecticut, 63 Norwich Ave. We're here tonight, I'm here with Rob, to request a modification of the permit that was granted back 3/11/2020. And it's simply for a revision to the footprint of the house and its relation to the wetlands. I think you'll have before you a copy of the approved plan, and you'll also see a copy of the proposed plan with the revised footprint. We can still, with the revised footprint, we could still honor the conservation easement that was approved. We can still honor the plantings along the conservation easement are approved. It's just simply feet difference between the edge of the house and the edge of the wetlands or conservation easement, if you will, that we're requesting. And Rob's here to answer questions about the house specifically. It's very much in line with the trend nowadays of having single-level houses and with bigger footprints, and it's just what we've been dealing with, on site plans now for a couple of years, and it's just a reflection of what they like to put on the lot, as opposed to the conceptual house box that we had to work with during the subdivision phase. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But as I said, we're prepared to honor all of the conditions and elements of the proposed plan as they were originally approved in 3/11/20.
Okay. All right, I'm going to open up the floor for questions. Commissioner Stevens, you have any questions?
Is there any way you can move the southwest corner of the house in a little bit more?
When you say in, you mean towards the street?
Right.
There's a 90-foot setback. We're sitting right on that line.
And I know we went through this before, but is there any way you can reduce that setback, get some kind of variance?
There is not. We can't get a variance on a lot that we're creating. This lot was created through subdivision. That was part of the process when we came to see you last time. And it's just not the practice of zoning commissions to approve a nonconformity as part of a new lot creation.
Could I ask town?
We would really love to do that.
Could I ask town staff what their
Yeah, so
comments might be?
as Mr. Reynolds stated, it is very, very difficult to, I'm not going to say it's impossible, because but it's, the vibe of the zoning board of appeals is that if it hasn't been built, you shouldn't be asking for a variance. You gotta, you build within that footprint. Something that is already built, for hardship purposes, you can ask, but it has to do with hardship and what entails a hardship. And in this case, the zoning board of appeals can easily say, and I don't want to speak for the zoning board of appeals, by the way, but they can easily say, well, you could reduce this footprint of the proposal and not have to be so close. So that's,
Okay.
so it's like a catch-22,
So
but
I guess
that's where it's
that's
at.
my next question to you, is can you explain to us why that southwest corner of the house absolutely has to be 19 feet closer?
Yeah, it's purely an architectural discussion. Rob maybe can talk to the layout of the house, but basically, I'm just working with the architect's plan here. I'm not intimate of the knowledge of the house layout itself, but
I'd like to see setbacks of at least 25 to 50 feet is really good. Like a minimum of 25 feet. So that's why I was recommending if there's any way you could
Yeah.
move that part of that house in a little bit.
yeah, I really wish that there was a way to work with the setback, because in this case, when you're out on the site, as you all were, it's clear that 90 feet is not necessary, but it is the regulation, and we did broach the subject with this commission and with the Planning and Zoning Commission staff when we went through that process, because we really did want to bring it forward. So, yeah, there's not a way to do that through zoning that I think is feasible. Whether that can be done architecturally, I would defer to Rob. Maybe you have an idea about that. Do you understand what they're saying is maybe that section of the house could be a certain amount? I mean, certainly if you had, if the commission had a line that they preferred, what did you say it was on the plan, 19 now?
It's 20.7 feet.
As
It got moved from
depicted
41 feet
to 20,
away to
right? So
20.
if the answer was it needed to be 25 feet, well then we'd back to the drawing board for the architects. We'd like to be somewhere closer to that plan than we were with the previous plan.
And then my only other question at this point is, what additional, like say sedimentation erosion controls or plantings, or what additional things are you offering from the previously approved?
Right. Well, for the previously approved plan, we had a double row of plantings, and I think that's still very valid for the situation. Certainly with the erosion sediment control, I feel like we double up on that. I don't know that there's a real better way to address that. Temporary, the temporary construction impacts would be the biggest concern to me. But I also know that the wetland limit at the base of that slope is very well defined, and that there's not going to be a need for construction activities to get in that area. So I think that maybe a combined wattle and silt fence barrier rather than a single fence would make sense. We're using wattles more and more now on construction very successfully. I highly recommend that. They're working really well on construction sites. So that would be my recommendation.
And also, with that southwest corner, is there a way maybe you could, I don't know, cantilever the house over, like still the footprint was in, but maybe.
Right, have that out. I'm going to mark that down. I think, if the commission has a line that they feel they'd like us to work with, then we'll get back to the architects. But if cantilevering was an option, certainly that'd be nice to see.
You're just getting really close, and when you consider the plantings and gradings, and, there's, the closer you get, the more potential for an accidental.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up grading, because along those lines, the plan is laid out, and it might be tricky to see because the intent of the plan is to match existing grades. There's not any need to raise or lower the grade around the house. It can sit right in there as the grades are now. So that's a big positive. We don't need to create a fill or anything like
And
that.
who's going to inspect the sedimentation erosion controls?
Well,
How
cer-
frequently, too?
Certainly, town staff is usually on board for that. I'd be more than happy to do it myself. In addition to that, if that's something that the commission felt was necessary.
I would say definitely if it gets, the proposed building gets set closer, then, more frequent inspections, definitely after every rainstorm event.
Yeah, I think maybe staking of the erosion sediment control, if it's not part of your normal conditions, having it staked by a land surveyor so we know it's in the right spot might make sense. Is that part of your regular conditions of approval? Yeah, okay.
Those would be my questions, and that's all I got right now.
Okay. Commissioner Zach?
Actually, I have nothing. Commissioner Stevens took care of my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Whelan?
How big is the existing proposed house square feet? And then how big is the new proposed house?
Do you know what the new one is?
Pretty much the same size.
It's,
spread out.
if I might, can I take a look at the map? You got a copy of
It's the
the
same
map?
size, but it's spread out.
Yeah, because, what was gonna happen, my mother-in-law wants to.
Rob, you got to come to the mic.
Wait, no.
Rob,
Come up to the,
you got to,
Yeah.
No, finish, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Fran, keep going. Don't answer my question until Commissioner Whalen is done. We'll get there, sorry. Just couldn't understand that
Okay, how
sentence.
big is the square?
It's around 2,800 square feet. It's going to be like a cape that we're going to do because my mother-in-law is going to come with us when it was here. And my brother-in-law is going to take that house, so we're going to make her master bedroom there. So we're all going to, it's going to be spread out. And both would be probably the same size houses, but just
It's not
one's
listed.
cape style and one would be colonial style. This would be cape, so it'd only be, this house here would be more spread out on the first floor with 2 bedrooms upstairs, which this house, and the other house would be more of a colonial, just with bigger square footage upstairs.
Okay. I'm extremely concerned because this whole house is within the upland review area, which we worked with you initially to grant, and now we're pushing it closer to the wetland areas. It's a big concern of mine. I mean, I think myself, we were gracious enough to get this first one in there. Now we're getting closer and closer to the wetland, which things can happen, things could get disturbed. But that's just a comment that I have, but thank you.
okay. Commissioner Schweitzer?
I'm going to share Commissioner Whalen's comments there. I'm concerned with how this has moved and gotten closer. Asking, as the engineer of record here, asking a question on your opinion, should we look at box houses in the future when we're approving permits, or should we get a more modern type design to get a more realistic picture of what's going to happen? So we're not working as we did to get you in as tight, and now we're getting a bigger design. We're not getting a future shed. We're getting a 3-bay garage. We're getting more of a ranch style than a colonial.
Right.
I'm just looking for your opinion on that.
Yeah, this is a common thing I deal with, and there's two answers. If you're dealing with a plot plan level permit, where someone, is at that level, then it certainly would make sense to see the actual footprint of the house. But when you're in the subdivision process, it's often the case that the person who's doing the subdivision is far from that point where they're going to be able to conceive of building their house. And oftentimes it's only boxes that are something that we can use to put on the plan, just because there's not even a certainty that the subdivision will be approved, so you don't have architectural plans for a house at that stage. So at a subdivision plan, it's harder to achieve that, but certainly at a plot plan stage, it's nice. I don't know. I don't think that it's really possible, probably, for this commission to avoid situations where the individual home, when it gets to that stage, is a little bit different than the subdivision plan. It must happen a number of times, especially with larger subdivisions. And the best you can hope for probably is just to ask for bigger and bigger boxes on subdivision plans. That might help, but that's where I would go with it.
Or if we push the distance we won't approve to, let's say, a 50-foot, so then even if you expand, we're still going to hit the 25-foot that Commissioner Stevens was alluding to.
Right. I hear what you're saying. Maybe that's the answer, yeah. But I don't know. I think the best thing might be to just try to look for larger boxes, especially given the climate of these ranches. It's ranch houses now, and they're just... this is actually not that big. We're dealing with 3,000 and 3,200 square foot footprints all the time now. And they're not, overall square footage wise, that includes a garage, and they're not a lot more of a living space than we used to have with a two-level colonial with a attached garage, but it's just laid out on the ground now.
That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you. Are you also adding a deck
Yeah.
that will extend also further into the upland review area? If I'm looking at, I assume that's the southwest corner of the deck.
Yeah, there's a deck on it, a pervious deck. So a deck over ground, not intended to be an impervious space.
But there's
but yes, there's a deck included.
and there's construction there, and there'll be disturbance during that process.
Yeah.
Is that footings? It'll be sunken cement footings or something like that.
Sonnet tubes,
Okay.
sonnet tube style construction.
Well, I'm going to echo what you've heard from the other commissioners. And I'm going to back up further and say, this town has a 100-foot upland review requirement to protect the wetlands. We reduced it by 60% originally, and now you want us to reduce it by 80%. I just have a real hard time with that. And I don't know, nobody's been as blunt as I'm being, but, honestly, and I understand, we've got a family situation, but we're here to protect the wetlands, and we hear this more and more often, that we have to make exceptions for perfectly good reasons, but our main function is protecting the wetlands. So those are my comments on it. Okay, thank you.
I appreciate that. One thought as I'm listening to you is that along the line of protecting the wetlands is that maybe the construction of a more physical barrier along the conservation easement might make sense as an added measure. We already were talking about putting markers and a low plantings, but maybe some sort of fencing. I like the idea of that from the standpoint it really defines the boundary. You may have concerns with that from wildlife perspective, but maybe there's a type of fence that could get in there that would make sense. Split rail, something like that. Some sort of physical barrier, perhaps, might make sense.
Thank you.
Right. And to answer your question earlier, there's an additional 350 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will repeat everybody else too. I'll take this from a very concrete standpoint. did you flag out where the plantings are going to be and where the house, this proposed house would be, and actually try to walk between that space and see how tight it is? Have you, I mean, physically walked in and said, geez, I can't get a riding lawnmower through here, or it's 2 passes on the lawn, something tangible that you realize how close you're butting up to that, where the plantings are going to be and the drop-off is? I mean, I'm not sure if you could, not that you would be driving into your backyard, not that there's much of a backyard, but I'm not sure if you could get a car back there.
My house on Steel Ridge, it's the same thing.
Yeah, this house layout is all about the front yard.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I'm looking at that,
So
but,
all of what you've just spoke about is also on a slope.
yeah,
Side slope.
right, because I'm pretty sure it goes up and then it goes down.
It's gonna come up from the wetlands, right? It's gonna be up all the way right to the house. There's gonna be no down.
There is no down,
The
okay.
house is essentially at the top of the bank.
See, because that scares me even more now, because anything falling off the house is just going to, because I wasn't in favor of that, but now you're making me think there needs to be like an earthen berm or something even to stop flow.
That's
I'm
an
not sure how
interesting
you-
idea. I mean, an earth berm. We do these on subdivision plans. They're sort of like the rain garden idea, but
Yeah.
basically a berm along the conservation easement would slow and hold. The drawback to that is, of course, you've got to build the berm
Inside the
if you
wetlands,
But if
yeah.
you build the berm as opposed to cut, you're putting a fill berm, then, I mean, you're going to be in there doing the plantings. Perhaps that makes sense. You put the plantings on a berm, and the berm holds back runoff. I like that idea. That sounds
Yeah, I'm
really
not sure. I had the topography wrong because I thought it was kind of pitched up. The house was a bit lower, but you're saying it's sloped the whole way. I'd really hate to build a berm
Yeah.
that's going to want to fall into the wetlands.
There's kind of a flat area where we stood when we had the site walk, and that house location is there, and then where it drops off is down to the wetlands. So, like I said, it's very well defined. That's one thing.
Yeah.
It's certainly not hard to see where those wetlands start. I like the berm idea. I don't know if that's something the commission would.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm agreeing with Commissioner Stevens, like a 25-foot minimum, and I'm thinking cut the corner off of that house, which is an ugly architectural statement, but if you cut the corner off, now you have 25 feet to the line. Sorry that I'm making your house smaller. But yeah, I mean, there's, as Commissioner Kelly said, I mean, we've let you into the upland review area, and now we're pushing you right up to the conservation easement. Yeah, I mean, it's just the way the lot is set up. There's not much you can do.
Yeah, I don't think that 25 feet would be a very big difficulty for the architect from the architectural standpoint. I'm not the architect, but I'm looking at revising this plan in such a way that there's 4.3 more feet would be something that could certainly be done and accomplished without impacting the.
Yeah, I don't want to say that 25 feet is the line of death.
Yeah.
But
you have to have one. You have to have a line.
There's got to be a line in the sand or a red line or something. And I think, like Commissioner Stevens floated the number of 25. I mean, like we said, it's a 100-foot upland review.
Sure.
Through
I
the
have a
chair,
comment.
can I
Yeah,
just ask a quick question? Is this something that you want to discuss with your client and make sure that they really need a CAPE instead of a colonial, and go through all the numbers with them?
Well,
and
I
get back to
have
us?
discussed this pretty extensively. I'm certain that this is the kind of house that they want to do. As the attorney earlier echoed, if the commission sees fit that 25 feet is where they want to be, if that's a condition of approval, we'll get back to the architect and say, make this work somehow. And that certainly sounds well within the scope of the discussions I've had with Rob and his family about the house.
I had a comment.
Commissioner Whelan?
I'm extremely concerned about this 25 feet. where are we coming up with this? We have a 100-foot inland line to work with. Is this something that now everybody in the public's going to have a right to, 25 feet? If we settle this today?
Offer another suggestion through the chair?
Sure.
Could we have some sort of an assessment done by a biologist to see what the functions and the values of this wetland are? And maybe if we determine that it's a really high valuable wetland with all kinds of, rare and endangered species or whatnot, we might even want further than 25 feet? Or maybe the biologists may say 25 feet is adequate, I don't know. It just seems like we're kind of making a decision with not a lot of information here.
Can I just say a couple of words? And I've known Rob for a long, long time, but this is a very difficult lot.
Yes.
It's been a very difficult lot from the beginning. And the footprint of the house, I think, changed to the approval. It changed maybe twice, maybe 3 times. And the footprint that was approved was basically the compromise. Because, at that time, I thought that the commission gave you were pretty generous in giving you what you needed or what he needed. This proposal here, again, is pushing it even closer. And I know that if it's done properly, it's going to be fine, and Rob will take care of the property. But we don't know who's going to come after Rob. And, we have a lot of difficulties in those cases where conservation easements are so close to the dwellings. I find myself going out just, not in the daily basis, but at least weekly basis, to be looking at houses that could potentially have violations on the property. And not that we're going to have another 10 Ramblewood here, but, we are trying to avoid that. That's why we have a 100-foot upland review area. It's not a line in the sand, but it's something that we can work with. And you have compromised already, and related to this proposal, and you're being asked to compromise again, and to make it even less, and it's going to be very, very difficult to monitor. A proposal like that. If they are to go back and talk to their architects and you're still not going to be satisfied, well, why bother? So
Yeah.
if you don't like what you see, just say so.
Right.
And we can be done with it.
Hang on one second, Scott. To answer Commissioner Whelan's question about where I got 25 feet from, it was actually a number that Scott said, and it just happens to be an even divisor of 100. It's a quarter of it.
I
But-
just wanted to add to that. That number is based on, a lot of towns have like 25 or 50-foot buffers, so that's just a
Right.
number that is used by a lot of towns. And also, there's been different buffer evaluation studies done, and they found that generally 25 to 50 feet with a lot of different types of wetlands is like a typical thing that's good for a buffer to protect wetlands. So it's not just a number I picked up. It's just, it's a number that's kind of floats out there.
But is that something we're opening up to everybody in the future?
Well, that's why I
to deal with?
recommended that maybe they should do an assessment, by a biologist to see what buffer would be recommended for this particular site based on the plants and the animals and different species that are there. That could be done.
But are we spinning our wheels here? I mean, like
yeah.
Bob says, are we not going to approve this? Are we going to put these people through a lot of extra fees and expenses?
Yeah, well,
And it's not going to happen.
I think Scott is on, Commissioner Stevens is on the right approach. Can the wetlands, before we say you can build at 25 feet, we really need to know what the wetlands is or isn't.
There could be rare and endangered species or species of special concern that are utilizing this wetland, and maybe a 50-foot buffer is really what's prudent for this site. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the problem is we've already approved a 41-foot buffer.
Right. Well, I'm just saying it would maybe help us to decide whether or not we want to go closer than what we.
Yeah, I
Well, could Mark, could you have the soil scientists provide an assessment and provide to the commission that, or prove to the commission rather, that 25 feet is adequate, right? That's basically what you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree with what Commissioner Stevens started out saying, that, yeah, I mean, if it turns out that wetlands is, what was one of the wetlands, like down by the Shell station, where it wasn't really a wetlands, as, you know, it wasn't where the
Functioning,
yeah,
functioning.
yeah, how well it functions or not. You know, has this been like this for generations, or is this a recent formation that has nothing? I don't want to downplay and say nothing significant, but you know what I mean. If there's something in there that needs to be protected, that's part of what this commission is about, is protecting the wetlands. If this can survive a 25-foot buffer, then that gives us information to work with. If it turns out that it needs as much buffer as it gets, we've already approved a 41-foot setback, and we can't go back on our word. So I think I need someone to. Would it be a soil scientist, or do we need somebody specialized?
You can be a biologist,
It could be a
you know.
professional
yeah.
wetland scientist or
A professional wetland scientist, a biologist could be something like Scott or George Logan or somebody like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, until we get new alternates, Scott, you're not
Is that
getting to
something that
sit
your
out.
client will be willing to do there, Mark?
Yeah, Commissioner Stevens, just to be clear, you're looking for a functions and values assessment that would include a statement about buffer and its impacts with given those functions and values.
Right.
That's certainly something that that we could do. The soil scientists who flag the wetlands would not be doing that, but we could have somebody very well qualified to do that. There's any number of soil scientists I can think of that we could do that.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask for a motion in a second, but for right now, probably you should just hold on talking to architects or.
Whatever, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Can't do it,
Okay.
Yeah, no, so,
I'm not here breaking laws.
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's your land. It's your land. We've already said you can build a house on it. We just want.
I think that's against the law. Just
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Just remember, we're here to protect the wetlands. Right. So don't talk to your architect about changing anything right now. But at this point, I'd like a motion that.
He's got a comment.
So we're kind of asking for like a conditional, so if the biologist or soil scientist come back and says, well, it needs a 35-foot buffer, then we'll allow them a 6-foot change off their plot plan that we've already approved, right? And if they go to 25,
Right.
I'm just,
Commissioner Kelly.
Is this whole decision hinging on what the soil scientist says?
No,
Or what
no.
our regulations say?
Correct.
I mean,
No.
It's up to you to approve or deny any modification of a permit. I think what Scott is saying, well, he likes to see expert testimony to support what they're looking for. However, you're going to be looking at that expert testimony and agree or disagree with it. You can still agree or disagree with it. You know, I mean,
Thank
you know,
you.
Right. Yeah.
you can say 25 feet is not enough, or
Right.
what have you.
If
You know, I mean, it's like that. So, you know, just because you have a document in front of you that says it, you know.
right.
Like through the chair, like for instance, is this site, is anything listed on the National Diversity Database? for
To my
this area?
knowledge, there is not.
No.
So I mean, these are different things that should be looked into, or maybe the town might have different.
They were already looked into at the previous,
Okay.
the previous application, of the application that was approved. So I don't think that it was going to, well, we can double check, but I don't think in 1 year it's going to have changes.
Sure.
So.
I have a huge concern here. We do this, as Commissioner Stevens says. Another person comes in and says, now, we have 15 feet away from the wetlands, and it's acceptable in the soil scientist's eyes. Are we going to agree to that? Or where are we drawing a line here? We have a 100-foot inland wetland review area we're supposed to protect. We're getting closer and closer. At what point are we determining,
Well-
Through the chair, like,
Yeah.
just kind of reiterating what Bob was saying, if we have expert witness testimony that says that whatever they're proposing isn't going to impact the wetlands, then at least that gives us more information. Right now, we're just hearing what the developer's proposing, and then we're sort of taking whatever information we have and trying to make a decision. But the more expert witness testimony.
don't we have regulations in this town that we're supposed to be enforcing? That's what my
Well,
concern is.
we have a review area. We don't have a set buffer. Some towns do have set buffers that you can't, maybe with a permit you could, but they really have like strict buffers that they don't
Right.
like you to.
And Commissioner Whelan, and this is a very special case just because the way this lot is set up is that they can't build within the 90 feet from the front part of the lot, which put the house into the upland review area.
Correct, but that's not our problem.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah, except we've
Chairman.
already, hang on a second. But we've already said, yes, you can build in that area. We can't.
Correct.
Right,
He gave
Right.
us the dimensions of the house, and we
Right.
approved that.
right. And now at this,
Going closer to the wetlands,
Right.
which we're supposed to
which,
protect.
right, and I'm thinking of some other case, hopefully we won't run up against this again, where it's, to make it work, you have to put the house there. If somebody comes up to us with an acre lot and they want to build, and it's all buildable, and they want to build all the way back by the wetlands, it's very easy for us to say, no, you're in the 100-foot upland review area, you have lots of choices. In this case, there was no choice.
Mr.
Correct,
Chairman?
but we approved
Yes.
something.
How many times has a developer come in here and said, and we've said, please push it back, please push it sideways, and they've said, if I change the footprint, I can't make any money, or I can't have somebody live there, or there's always an exceptional reason. I mean, you use a phrase, something like that. So our position is not to judge each reason as to whether we should, go on one way or the other. And I understand we're going to do a study on this, and what I would like to see is make a motion, table this, and move on, because we could keep talking about this
Yeah.
all night.
So,
Can we just, we
we-
would table this, correct?
right, can we make a request to get the information we want?
Right, so we would
And then we
table
table it, and then when we get information, when we have something concrete, I agree. When we have something concrete to talk about, if the biologist says, no, they need as much buffer as they can get.
Well, let's just get that document.
Right, okay. So, Bob, do we need a motion to actually ask for this, or can we just stipulate?
Well, you can table it and ask that a wetlands assessment study and functional values be supplied to the commission before a decision is rendered.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion to request the information that we want, and then to table this. And it can be one motion.
I'll make a motion that we ask the applicant to provide us with a environmental assessment of the functions and the values of the wetland, and to review the proposed plan to look at, the potential impacts that it may have on the wetlands and any prudent and feasible alternatives that they may find necessary.
And table this to the next
And
meeting.
table it to the next meeting.
Great. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? I see none. All right, we'll see you next month.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to item 4, action taken, minutes presented for approval for the April 14th, 2021 meeting. Do I have,
Motion to
So-
approve the minutes.
okay,
Second.
all right, anyone having?
I have
Yes.
just 3 comments, all on page 3. The first paragraph, first line, Commissioner Kelly said they did meet last week. Need a K in there. And the last sentence in that paragraph, the town council to vote favorably on it. And the former Rocky Hill landfill paragraph, owners filed a permit with the We need a T in there, and that's all.
Are we on the October or the April?
That's
one?
April.
Oh, that's April.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
I also have something. Could you just please add an extra L in my name, please? 2 L's, please. Thank you. Mom will be happy I said that too.
Hang on 1 second, I'm catching up. Okay, any other changes? All right, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Aye. All right, anyone opposed? Nope, carried. All right. That would take us to 5B now, Plan of Conservation and Development Plan Implementation Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I can report that we did have a meeting, and the one item I'll report on is there was a proposal for a greenway in Rocky Hill, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with the greenway is. The DEEP has a Greenways Council, and a greenway is just a corridor passing through protected or open spaces, passive recreation spaces. Weathersfield just got it approved through their meadows up to, from one end to the other. We had presented a greenway which would go through, from the ferry through the meadows to connect to Weathersfield, which would be a wonderful connectivity, which is what the state wants. It was tabled because there were concerns from the farmers because it would be going through the meadows. However, I will say it was going through on existing public roads. Nothing was changing. The gates were not being opened. It was just saying, these roads that you know, we're calling them a greenway. But there were concerns, so we're want to address that. So that was tabled. And if anybody saw, well, maybe not, but the DEEP just announced Weathersfield was granted their greenway status, which is a nice thing for a town. It's kind of a plum. It opens you to some funding if you need in the areas, but we're dealing with that. And that's all I really have on the PIC committee. The PIC.
Okay, status reports, various projects.
Okay, so let me just start again with the former Rocky Hill landfill plans that were submitted by the applicant are being looked at by the DEEP still. Those plans were sent in to the DEP on January 20th, as I remember. Once they review the plans, it is my understanding that they're going to have a public information meeting with town residents about this proposal, but that is yet to come. Regarding the foundry, you notice that things down there are pretty much shut down. They will be coming back. Just so you know, the DEP recently asked them to update their natural diversity database information. They're working with the architect in changing, because one of the buildings have changed from whatever they're proposing to townhouses. So once they get those buildings in place, they'll be basically coming back and doing whatever rest of the remediation that they need to do. By the way, Friendly Auto Body has already been completely remediated. We have alternate workplace practices have been, the DEP has been asking them to do alternate work practices regarding the silos. And those practices were also including remediating the silos. And my understanding was that they had asked them to remediate or to have them test every 7 feet as they crushed the silos down, which was, from what I was told, it was going to cost big money. So the applicant, right now the permit holder, is going to be coming back to boards and commission asking that those silos be kept in place. That is my understanding. I was told through the attorney for the applicant, for Mr. Thailand, that they're still committed to completing this proposal, that this is a go, and they will be there will be, that Mr. Thailand, as I quote, Mr. Thailand is fully committed to the project. So he's you know, they're just have a lot of hurdles to still overcome. They have 2.5 years, as far as this commission is concerned, to complete everything. So they're going to have to be reapplying once that time expires. So they're working on it. It's an ever-changing proposal, but hopefully we can see some progress at some point. Not related to wetlands, but maybe related to your open space hat. You know, I know there's been a little bit of talk about Ames, and you know, Ames will be coming back coming to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a pre-application process. Once they go through that, then they're going to file a full-blown application. I think there might be an opportunity for this commission to act as the Open Space Commission and have at least make recommendations to the Planning and Zoning as to what is it that is going there and what have you. We have not seen the final layout. So stay tuned on that. To bring you up to speed on the farm, Straskas Farm, the cleanup is just about almost completed. If you go out there, parcel A is looking like night and day compared to what it looked like a year ago. So they're almost there. Fields are being planted, and farmers are doing a great job. So we are concentrated in the phases of parcel A. So once the cleanup of the stuff around it is done, I guess the town is going to proceed then to remediate and demolish the house and the other foundations and the other buildings. The hotel restaurant by Exit 24, which is opposite Water Chase, was approved by this commission about 2 years ago. That proposal is now being modified by the applicant, or proposed to be modified by the applicant. Before they do so, they also have to talk to the Connecticut DOT on it. We are going to be meeting with the Connecticut DOT tomorrow regarding this proposal on site with the applicant and go through the various modifications that they're looking to propose. Once that's done and approved, then they're going to be coming back to you, to this commission again for approval. And last but not least, I know that we talked about sending letters out, Michelle and Sandy. We're going to be doing that hopefully next week, and
Good.
and we can put that also to bed. We had a lot of areas that need to be attended to.
Right. Yeah.
And, instead of going from site to site, just inform the people, and hopefully that's going to cut down on our visits.
I was going to actually bring up to you, Bob, how's it looking over by Town Center West, along that wetlands on West Street side?
Town Center West actually is not looking that badly. The only area that I looked at that was a concern was actually the area along West Street, and
Right.
and that area along West Street had garbage and what have you that needed to be picked up. I got to tell you that the facility that they're using, the management company that they're using, have been pretty good as far as keeping it clean thus far.
Good.
So because I don't know if you recall, but there was supposed to be a fence.
Yeah,
a box
and
fence,
we told them.
that was proposed about that,
Yeah.
and it was so low that it didn't really do any good, so that was eliminated.
Right.
And the state wouldn't let us move the fence, or wouldn't let them move the fence closer into the right of way. So
Right, and we had stipulated that they were to put so much money also aside, and that they were to clean it
Yes,
regularly
yeah. So
of all the trash.
they're doing the things that they're supposed to,
Okay, good, good.
and that's it.
Okay, open space,
Nothing.
nothing. Legislation,
Nothing,
conferences,
none,
correspondence and communications.
none.
Well, I actually have one to tell you about because in my packet, this week was the Meadow View. It's the newsletter from the Great Meadows Conservation Trust. So if anyone wants to see what's going on down in the meadows, I have a copy of this. So that's it for correspondence and communications. Anyone have any other business? Hearing none, just want to say thank you. It was nice to be in person again. It's good to be back. And with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn our meeting.
Oh, do we have to?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned, 7:06 PM. Thanks, everybody.
Recording stopped.